Welcome back to Studebaker Fabrication's Little Shack of Mysteries. Will this truck ever run again? I don't know. That's the mystery. Last week you guys saw me install this abomination. Little dual pot power brake setup. Spent some time yesterday making all new brake lines, and I was definitely over prepared, which is a good thing. But one 25-foot spool of brake line did this whole truck. Got one more line to make. Just to go from that T to the caliper up here. I bench bled the master cylinder already. I need to go get my little fancy $5 bleeder tool that threads in here. And then I need to go pull my son out of his room so that he can help pump that brake pedal while I break open all the bleeders. I think this is going to take quite a while. I might go see if O'Reilly's has a vacuum bleeder to rent. I've never had to pump fluid through, 25 feet of line before, so I don't know. Shouldn't be too bad, right? You can see I've had to add some extra reinforcement to the shanty here. We had some strong winds coming through the other day, and I thought I was about to lose this place. It'd be a bad day. And yeah, I guess I could have just taken it down, but where's the fun in that? Where's the adventure? 'Cause that's exactly what I want to deal with right now, is going and grabbing my Easy Up out of my neighbor's backyard after it punched a hole in a window or something. Seems like a good time. Don't forget your fitting. Luckily, I only did that once yesterday. Knock on wood. This is the last little stretch of one spool of 25 feet of brake line. So this was more than enough. I bought 3 spools. Thought I was gonna need a lot more. Not real good at eyeballing the measurements. So anyways, I'm just gonna eyeball this measurement right here. I guess we'll get a tape measure out. Just for kicks. Really don't need much here. I don't even know if the old tape measure is gonna fit in there. I only need I don't know. What do you guys think? You can see down in here, right? With my extra cameraman skills. This is my first time ever making brake lines, so hopefully that doesn't affect the quality. It'll be fine. Put the little anvil thingy in there. Put this thingy on that thingy, and then you run the pointy bit into the other bit. Very technical explanation on how to make brake lines. This isn't a how-to video, all right? This is just me having fun, having a good old time. Doesn't it look like I'm having fun? Well, it's a new day out here on the patio under the Easy Up, and I spent all day yesterday bleeding the brakes and chasing leaks. It wasn't all that interesting, but if you're curious, it went a little something like this. Found a leak. Yep, we're leaking. And now I'm in the process of replacing all the stuff I broke when I took the dash apart. So I've got a brand new oil pressure line here. I had to pull this fitting off of the OEM line, and I'm hoping that it doesn't leak, but we'll see. And then the temp gauge, I didn't realize this, but this is a capillary tube, and it's soldered into the back of the gauge. You can see right here where it's shiny, where I put a pair of pliers on there and messed it up. But I ended up pulling the tube out of the back of the gauge, which you're not supposed to do. This is all one assembly, and you're supposed to take it out of the block right there. I didn't know that. Now I do. I tried to find a new one of these online, which there are a couple stores that sell replacement stuff like this, just because, you know, I pulled the back of it apart, but everything that I found was out of stock. I'm gonna use my fancy Bernzomatic propane, butane, some kind of AIN. It's a gas-powered soldering iron. Try to put some more solder in here and fix that and hope that doesn't leak. There we go. Try to get it super freaking hot. But yeah, you can see all the shiny new solder down inside there. Just had to get that thing smoking hot. So hopefully that doesn't leak. And went a little heavy on the solder. We'll see. Might have to flip that over and fix it a little bit. While that gauge is cooling off, let's address this single barrel carburetor. We're gonna ditch this in favor of this. This is just a Weber style carburetor. You can pick these things up on Amazon for like, I think I paid 50 bucks. And I've heard really good things about these. Just a Chinese made carburetor. It's nothing special, but I've heard that right out of the box, they're pretty much good to go. So it does have an electric choke on it right now, but there's some other little bits and pieces in the box. And I think you can put this on a manual choke, which is what this truck has. And I've got a adapter to go from the square to the single pot, whatever you call this. You can set up your fuel inlet in different positions, which is cool. I think this is a big old vacuum port, which we need for our power brakes. So this is, as long as this works, this should solve a couple issues for us. And just like everything else I've done on this truck, I don't know how this is gonna work or if this is gonna work. A big reason why I wanna take this single pot carburetor off of here is because it's actually missing the throttle return spring, and there's another spring that goes up here on the choke, which is right on top. I don't know where any of that stuff went. It was probably in my possession at one time or another, but it's not anymore. Also, this shaft that's in here leaks a lot of fuel. Pretty curious about what this plate's all about. Is that like a homemade gasket? We will find out. I think that little Weber, as long as it works, it's gonna be pretty sweet on here. My mind's been racing about what all to do with this truck, and I keep going back and forth. If I should convert it to 12 valve or 12 volts, 12 valve, that'd be sick. 12 volt, keep it 6 volt, and ultimately everything works. Well, everything that was on the gauge cluster works. The generator works. Everything that would need to get changed to make it 12 still functions as a 6. So in the interest of getting this thing back on the road as quickly as possible, we're just gonna keep it 6 for now. And maybe we'll go to 12 later on. Maybe we'll wait until the engine swap comes, because eventually this thing is gonna get an engine swap. I have a small block Chevy and a small block Ford. The Chevy came back from the machine shop a while back, and it's just all the parts are clean and ready to be put back together. Got a lot of new stuff for it. The Ford was one of those, you know, rebuilt and then left on an engine stand for years and then never used. So who knows if it was actually rebuilt or not. I think it was. It looks like it's in pretty good shape. But that engine is actually an early model small block Ford 260, and those were in like the Ford Falcon. The problem with that engine is it has a different bell housing bolt pattern than like the 289 and the 302. So a little bit harder to come by, but they are, I mean, it is possible to find them. It just makes things a little bit more difficult because like the later 260s, or sorry, the early 260, 289 block, right? Like the early 289, that's the same block. And the 289 302 is the same block, but they're not interchangeable. Okay, this definitely feels like some kind of a gasket on here. And I'm not sure if I should try to take it off. I'm gonna try and take it off. So there's this weird like intermediate plate. I'm wondering if this was blocking off another section of the intake somewhere. We're about to find out. I might be putting this thing right back on. I'll try not to destroy it. And get the rest of this gasket off. No, it wasn't. That's the same pattern. Just a random piece of sheet metal in there. I don't know. It's pretty weird. Let's see if I bought the right adapter. This is the 4-bolt thing, and I think there was a 2-bolt option. Maybe it'll work. It'll either work or it won't. I can tell you that right now. I mean, as long as that covers all that up. Right. There. I think that'll be fine. Does the carburetor need to sit that way though? Or is it supposed to sit that way? Because it definitely does not fit going that way. It only fits going that way. It only fits going that way. That puts the linkage on the side going that way. I think this thing is symmetrical, so we could probably put it this way. And then the linkage is here, pulling back. All right, well, there are no instructions in this box, just some troubleshooting. But there is a bag of additional parts here, such as a manual choke, so we can take the electric one off and keep our choke cable, or maybe this just goes over the top of that. I don't know, there's no instructions. I'll figure it out. This looks like part of the manual choke, maybe. Yep, those screws line up somehow, maybe like that. So those probably go together. There's our gasket. And then there's all these other parts for throttle linkage stuff. Got an extra plug with a crush washer. Got some little baby studs. Oh, those are for the air filter. And there's different options for throttle linkage. Pull this off. Clean off the mating surface here. Definitely should have something down this hole, but you know,
Seems like there's a whole nother gasket down here. There it is. I was scraping this thing thinking, this thing sure is coming apart easy. Nope, there's just another gasket. I bet somebody just did all this as a spacer because of how long these studs are that come out of here. I'd be willing to bet. So that's going to be an issue. The threads stop up here. They don't go all the way down. So I got to figure out how to get these out, or by a tap that down further and then cut these shorter because it's actually hitting up here. It's hitting on this little bubble right here, which is threaded on the inside, but I don't know what it's for because it doesn't match anything on the carburetor.
Gonna hit it with the freeze off and some locking pliers. And then I'll just have to find some studs, which I think I can find at the hardware store up the road. That matches this thread pattern, you know, the pitch. There we go, see? It's just a coarse thread stud that's down in there. Much like myself. No, but seriously. I think I can find those at the hardware store. Before I go and get that other one out, let's measure. That's 1.25 inches. So if we put this on here and we can see about 2 threads, okay, and that's down in there. Our studs only need to be 7/8 of an inch. All right, after another trip to the hardware store, got the right size studs here, I hope. We'll see. I'm hoping that these little corners hanging off don't cause a vacuum leak. Now let's figure out which direction we want the carburetor to go, because we can have it I guess we don't need to mess with the gasket right now. We can have it that way, and then we'll have to redo the throttle linkage here because that ain't gonna work. Let's do it. Those go on the ground. Whoop-ah, whoop-ah, whoop-ah. Or we can spin this around, and then our throttle linkage is a little bit closer, but I don't think it really matters at this point because either way we're gonna have to redo the throttle linkage. Okay, well, this is on for the last time. I actually just jumped on Amazon and looked to see if they had just the 2-bolt pattern to this Weber style adapter, and they have one, but the rectangular flange has a little bit different shape to it, and I'm not 100% sure it would work. It probably would, but I've got this. I'm gonna run it, and we'll just see how it goes. I did put a little bit of gray Permatex around the intake surface and in between the gasket and the adapter, just because this is a 4-bolt pattern and I'm only using 2 of them. It's probably a small enough diameter that it's not going to matter, but better be safe than sorry. So that thing's on there nice and tight, and let's figure out how to get our Weber on there the right way. And don't think I'm going to use that gasket, even though it's thicker and it looks like it's a nicer quality. This one is open in the center. This one separates the two. What do you call it? That one's just open in the middle. So I guess, question is, do we go this way and just flip the throttle linkage upside down? I think that's our best bet, because then our choke's back here and we can hook up our cable just going this way, because it's going to come from there in 90. I think that'll be fine. It's just been a day of driving around, apparently. I bought a lot of the wrong parts, but I'm making them work. It's just taking a while, slowly but surely. Can you guys tell the sun's going down? It's been a long day and not a lot has gotten done. Last week was hard work, but I feel like I got a lot accomplished. This week has been a lot of easy work and nothing's getting done. So I feel like life had to interject and be like, hey, slow down there, big guy. We don't want you getting too much stuff accomplished. Anyhow, I'll show you guys what I'm dealing with here. Been messing around with this carburetor. This thing's, I mean, it's cool. I like it. I had to bend this bracket for the choke cable to go the other way, because originally it came off on this side and you couldn't just flip it over, because then this tab would go the other way. So stuck that in the vise and flattened it out and then bent it back the other way. And it's got a little crack in it now, but I think that'll be fine. That just holds like the outer casing of the choke cable. So nothing's actually moving against this, I don't think. I got my throttle linkage switched out to this like cable style. This is on upside down, and I did that on purpose just because of how this is sitting in the truck. I got some vacuum line for my vacuum advance and my brake booster. I think my brake booster's coming off of here. I don't know yet. I think the filter actually has another port on it as well. But I think that's for like crankcase ventilation. I don't know. I'll figure it out. So that's probably brake booster. That's probably vacuum advance. And I bought the wrong size vacuum line for both of those. I think I can make it work, because that stuff's pretty stretchy. It's just going to be a pain in the butt, just like everything else has been going on with this carburetor debacle of 2025. And the biggest thing right now is this guy. So this is the gasket that came with the carburetor. This is the gasket that came with the adapter. Obviously, that one fits on there and lines up just fine. Well, then I went to put carburetor using this gasket, because it's open in the middle, and the bolt holes wouldn't line up, and I couldn't tell why, because there's a lot going on in a small amount of space. So I figured I'll use the carburetor gasket as a template. That should show me what's going on. And lo and behold, you put this flat on there, you can see a little bit of metal in the sides of those two small holes. And then it's the same thing on this side, just on the inside, right there, right there. So I could get 3 out of the 4 bolts started, but the carburetor was sitting on there crooked. Couldn't figure out what was going on, couldn't get the 4th bolt in there. So now I'm gonna use this gasket as a template, and I'll use my Sharpie to just let me know how much metal needs to be removed. This is definitely the wrong adapter carb combo, but I'll make it work. It'll be fine. So yeah, I just need a little bit there, a little bit there, right there, and right here. I don't have one of those battery operated Dremels, or not Dremels, but the die grinders.
So I'm just going to use a file. Okay. I think that works all right with the gasket. Let's try it with the carb. Wind's picking up. I'm gonna have to batten down the hatches again. Let's go for number 4. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. All right. That was kind of a pain, but also not that bad. Okay, I gotta get those tightened down. I gotta get the vacuum line for the brake booster over here to this one. We'll just leave it as long as it is for now. Clean it up later. And by clean it up later, I mean this is so tight that it's probably never coming off. Okay. So this vacuum advance off the distributor has a hard line off of it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it off and leave myself a little nub. And then I'll use some soft line vacuum line to go from the nub over to the carb. And then I think the carburetor, other than the throttle linkage, I think the carburetor's done. It's getting late, but I'm still going. Fuel line's hooked up, vacuum lines are hooked up. I haven't tightened down the bolts yet, but I just want to see what this thing looks like with the air cleaner on it. I think these things are pretty cool looking carburetors. Okay, so you put the rubber gasket down on there. It's a tight fit. And then you put this bottom plate on, and then there's screws that go in here to hold everything in place. And then there's your air cleaner. And then you just got these little clips that hold the top and bottom together. That are super easy to put on. And that's what she'll look like. That's pretty freaking sweet. So I've got the gauge cluster pretty much ready to be put in. I added just a quick little toggle switch in there, just, you know, like a $1 toggle switch. It's cheap, it's plastic, it's cheesy, I hate the way it looks, but I don't have a key for this truck. So this will give us a way to turn the ignition on and off. And then the starter is just ran off of that little button that's under the clutch. I picked up one of these shop manuals. It's just a reprint of what they used back in the 40s and 50s. And it's pretty sweet. It goes into a lot of detail on all kinds of systems, but it has wiring diagrams in there. And that was kind of the main reason why I got it now. But yeah, so I'll probably chase a little bit of wiring. I did pick up a 6-volt battery, so we can just keep everything 6 volt. The only thing that I'm not gonna be able to hook up, well, there's a lot that I'm not gonna be able to hook up, but as far as the new stuff that we put on, there's that little dummy light switch that goes in here. This dash just has the 3 light bulbs for like the backlight to light up the gauges. There's no dummy lights in here. So maybe I'll add one. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll figure it out tomorrow.
Just like that, guys, it's Friday. This week has flown by and I didn't get a whole lot done. So sorry about that. Had a doctor's appointment today, so pretty much the whole day is ruined. It's already late in the afternoon and I needed to get started editing this video today. So I got the new carb on, just need to screw the air cleaner on. I just set it on there last night just to kind of see what it was gonna look like. And then I can start hooking the gauge cluster back up and we can start it. The reason why I need to hook the gauge cluster back up is because the temp gauge and the oil pressure are mechanical gauges. So they actually send a little bit of stuff up a tube to the gauge. So, you ready to do this? All right, well, Hank just walked off, so I guess he's not gonna help. When I was taking this thing out, the studs on the back of this cluster were so rusty. As soon as I put any torque on these studs, they just snapped off. Two on the bottom are still here though, and Gorilla Tape will hold in the rest of it. All right, pass me that tape. You thought I was joking? No, sir. So we're just gonna stick this in here and say a little prayer that it doesn't leak. And just need to tighten that up. And then our speedo cable, it's right here. We don't really need to hook this up, but I don't want to sit here and listen to it spin around inside here, so. Although if we stay in neutral, it shouldn't spin, right? I did go out and buy a 6-volt battery, just so we're a little bit more legit. I did guess on the group size, and it looks like I was pretty freaking spot on. Our ground still doesn't have an end on it, so we're just going to use the old squeezy clamp and see if she fires up. It's going to take a minute to get fuel up to that carburetor, so that should be our ignition coil. Let's make sure we're in neutral. This thing sounds a lot different with a 6-volt battery on it. Make sure nothing's super hot, nothing's smoking. We can turn off our coil. Let's make sure we got a little bit of gas in our gas tank. I don't see anything squirting. Okay, the old gasoline in a water bottle trick. Way too much. Okay. I don't know where to fill the bowl on this thing. Might be this middle vent right here. We're gonna find out. I'm either filling the bowl or I'm flooding the crap out of it. About to find out. Well, I think my switch is wired backwards. We got the big slim coming in. Hold that open. Down is on, so I keep leaving it on. Already, that's a problem. That was promising. Probably adjust that screw right there. I bet this puts a little bit more air into it. Let's try that. That's exactly what that does. That holds those butterflies open. Coil left on. Boom. Sounds better with this carburetor too. I need new wires. I keep getting shocked. Perfect. I could probably tune it in a little bit, but I'm gonna let it get warmed up first. All right, well, there's another screw just like that one on the back side over here. And basically, I set it up. Let me turn the coil off. Basically, I set that one up the way you kind of start out with a quadrajet, which you go all the way in until the screw seats, and then you back it out 3 full rotations, and that's kind of your baseline. So let's see if I can do that with this back one here, and maybe we'll get some more fuel in this side. Oh, guess who never tightened up the base plate on the carburetor? Wonder if that has anything to do with this thing not wanting to start. Surely this doesn't have anything to do with our tuning adjustments that need to be made. This isn't causing a massive vacuum leak or anything. All right, version 2.0, now with tightened base bolts and functioning choke. Gotta fix that door. All right, ignition on. Starter engage. The fuel's really low in the tank. No leaks. We got oil pressure. Not reading anything on the temp gauge. I'm wondering if I plugged the capillary tube with solder when I was fixing it. It's a definite possibility. All right, I got the last of my lawnmower gas in here. Just sit in there. It rides pretty good on its own. Don't need to do anything crazy. Just sit that in there like so. Get this sprinkler out of the way. Yeah, get on out of here. And we have to at least test the brakes. So it would be a little bit easier if I had a throttle cable, but I don't. But I do have string. Okay, had to hook up a 12-volt battery because this hunk of junk just doesn't even want to run on 6, which is crazy because that's how it's designed. It also doesn't want to run when the camera's on. It's idling super rough. And it also doesn't want to rev up. But we got to check the brakes. Brakes work. My string throttle isn't the most responsive. And also I forgot to take the parking brake off, so I was trying to drive through that. But it stopped. That's what's important. We're also trying to drive on a flat tire, I think. This one's not super flat, but you can tell doesn't exactly want to hold air. Let's see if it wants to start again. Well, my throttle string keeps coming off the thing. It's got to go underneath and then pull that way. And you can see that little spark right there jumping that gap onto that vacuum line. That damn thing has got me like 6 times today. So I've had it with dealing with sparks and bull crap with this piece of shit truck. The brakes work. That's all I care about. I gotta try and figure out how to back this thing back up onto the patio though. Can't leave it on the grass. Landlords frown upon that. Well, this week was an absolute nightmare. There was a lot of little things to do, and I only got like half of one thing done. So I was gonna swap out plug wires, do a tune-up, oil change. I was gonna fix the fuel tank and put that back in there, but none of that got done because every small little detail, like bleeding the brakes and, you know, trying to dial in a carburetor, trying to make it fit with the adapters that you bought that were wrong, it just domino effect, one thing after another after another. I'm not trying to complain. I'm still gonna count this week as a success because the brakes work. There's still some air in the lines. I think I need to get one of those vacuum bleeder things and just try to suck all the air all the way through the line because the pedal still is a little bit spongy. But I think we've identified all the leaks and fixed them. There is a new carburetor on there. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. I heard great things about these Amazon Webers, and so far that thing's been a piece of crap. So let me know what you guys think. If you got any pointers, tips, tricks, if you saw anything I did that I screwed up. Pretty sure that carburetor's on the wrong direction, but that's the only way it fits with that adapter that I bought. So, but let me know down in the comments. I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Later.